The last words my wife whispered before cancer took her were, "Promise me you'll protect our little girl." For 27 years, I kept that promise. I was there when her first husband left. I held her when she cried. I paid for her wedding to her new husband. I gave them a home when they had nothing. But last Tuesday, on what would have been my wife's 65th birthday, I stood in the hallway of the house where she died in my arms, and I heard our daughter laughing on the phone. "Once we dump Dad in that nursing home, we'll be millionaires. That old fool doesn't even know he's already dead to us." My baby girl, the one I sang to sleep for years, the one I taught to ride a bike, the one whose hand I held at her mother's funeral, was planning my funeral while I was still breathing. She forgot I was standing right there. She forgot I still had fight left in me. Most of all, she forgot that her mother taught me to fight back. The mahogany dining table I'd bought with my late wife Selena 29 years ago had never felt so cold beneath my fingertips. Everett Blackwood, that's me, though Selena always called me Rhett like the character from her favorite movie, sat staring at the elaborate Napa Valley travel brochures Brielle had carelessly left out. My daughter, my only child, the little girl I'd raised alone after pancreatic cancer, stole Selena when Brielle was just 14. "Dad, we need to talk," Brielle said, entering the kitchen with that practiced smile she'd perfected over the years. The same smile she'd wore when she'd asked to move back home 5 years ago with Jackson, claiming they just needed temporary help while the market recovered. 5 years. That's how long I'd been housing them in our historic Charleston, South Carolina home on the Battery, paying their bills, buying their groceries. Jackson hadn't held a steady job since the tech startup he'd bragged about collapsed. But family is family, right? That's what Selena would have said. "About the Napa trip?" I asked, my weathered hands trembling slightly with excitement. "I've already researched the Silverado Trail. There's this beautiful vineyard where my mother and I honeymooned that I'd love to—" "That's the thing, Dad." Brielle's voice cut through my enthusiasm like the humid Charleston air. "Jackson and I talked, and, well, Roland and Meredith are coming." Roland and Meredith, Jackson's parents, both in their 70s, 8 years older than my 64 years. "That's wonderful," I said, confusion creeping in. "Should I book adjoining suites so we can all—" "No, Dad." She couldn't even look me in the eye. Jackson thinks it would be better if you stayed home this time. You know, someone needs to watch the house, and traveling is really exhausting at your age." At my age. The words hung in the air like Spanish moss on a cemetery oak. Roland was 72 and apparently spry enough for hot air balloon rides, according to the brochure's handwritten notes. But I, the man who still walked the Ravenel Bridge every morning and had just helped Jackson move a piano last week, was too old? "I see," I managed, though my throat felt like sandpaper. Brielle patted my shoulder, patronizing, dismissive. "You understand, right? It's just easier this way. Jackson says you'd probably be happier here anyway, with your routine and everything." My routine? Cooking their meals, washing their laundry, paying their bills from my pension and investments. She left the kitchen, designer heels clicking against the original heart pine floors I'd restored myself last year. I sat there, staring at those brochures, at the happy families posing in vineyards, at the empty chair where Selena used to sit and plan our golden years together. But it wasn't until I heard Brielle on the phone an hour later, her voice carrying through the thin walls of our 1850s mansion, that my heartbreak transformed into something else entirely. "Don't worry, Jackson. He bought it completely. Yeah, the Magnolia Gardens senior facility paperwork is ready. Once we're back from Napa, we'll have him sign everything. Power of attorney, the house sale, all of it. He's getting too old to manage it anyway. This South Abroad house has to be worth at least $2 million in this market." Too old. There it was again. But this time, those words didn't wound. They ignited something deep within me. South abroad, our magnificent Charleston neighborhood, where we built our life, where every cobblestone knew our story, where Selena's camellias still bloomed in the courtyard. They were planning to sell it all, while I withered in some facility. If this story touches your heart, if you've ever felt invisible or taken for granted by those you love most, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us share more stories that matter, stories that remind us we're never too old to fight back. Don't scroll away. Selena wouldn't want you to. My hand shook as I pressed my ear closer to the wall, each word from Brielle's conversation driving another nail into the coffin of our relationship. Magnolia Gardens Senior Facility actually looks decent in photos, she continued, her tone casual, like she was discussing dinner reservations at Husk. They have activities in crafts. He'll probably make friends. Jackson already talked to that real estate agent, Madison something. She says south of Broad properties are selling instantly. We could get $2 million, maybe even 2.2. $2.2 million. The house Selena and I had bought for $150,000 in 1988, where we'd raised our daughter, where every room held ghosts of better times, every corner whispered memories. No, he doesn't suspect anything, Brielle laughed. Actually laughed. You should have seen his pathetic face when I told him about Napa, like an abandoned dog. But Jackson is right. We can't have him ruining the trip with his stories about Mom and his health complaints. Health complaints? I hadn't been to MUSC for anything serious in 3 years. Meanwhile, Jackson had been to the emergency room 6 times this year for his stress-related chest pains that mysteriously occurred whenever work was mentioned. Roland and Meredith already put down the deposit for the estate rental, $40,000 for the week. Can you believe it? But once we sell Dad's place, that's pocket change. $40,000. I'd given them $60,000 last year alone for their investment opportunities. Where had that money really gone? I stumbled back to my bedroom, my legs barely supporting me. On the nightstand sat our wedding photo. Selena and her grandmother's lace dress, me in my naval uniform, both of us glowing with joy at Boone Hall Plantation. What do I do, Lena? I whispered to her frozen smile. That night, I lay awake replaying every sacrifice, every moment I'd chosen them over myself. The judgeship I'd turned down because Brielle needed help with her twin boys from her first marriage. Boys Jackson had immediately shipped to boarding school once he entered the picture. The retirement account I'd liquidated when they needed to invest in their future, which turned out to be cryptocurrency that crashed. The golf foursome at the Country Club of Charleston I'd abandoned because I was always on call for their latest emergency. By morning, I'd made my decision. They wanted to treat me like a senile old fool? Fine. But this fool had been a maritime attorney for 40 years. I knew how to navigate treacherous waters, and more importantly, I knew how to sink ships that threatened me. I made breakfast as usual. Jackson's shrimp and grits, Brielle's acai bowl with precisely measured portions. I smiled when Jackson complained about the coffee being too weak. I nodded when Brielle reminded me 3 times about her keto diet, as if I hadn't been accommodating it for 5 years. We're leaving for Napa in 2 weeks, Jackson announced, spreading imported honey thick on his biscuit despite his supposed diabetes concerns. You'll be fine here alone, right, Everett? I mean, you've got your bird watching and your garden. Of course, I replied, pouring more coffee with steady hands. Actually, I was thinking of doing some organizing while you're gone. Maybe sort through the attic, go through some old documents. Brielle and Jackson exchanged a look, relief mixed with greed. They thought I was making their job easier. That's great, Dad. Just don't throw away anything important. Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. Everything important was about to be carefully, methodically preserved, just not in the way they expected. After they left for another day of shopping on King Street with my credit card, I made a phone call to an old colleague who'd become a friend, Mateo Vega, now one of the Low Country's most successful property developers. "Everett! How long has it been, counselor?" Too long, Mateo. Listen, I need your help with something, discreetly. Mateo arrived the next morning in an understated BMW, parking near White Point Garden as I had requested. We met at a small cafe on Rutledge, far from the tourist areas where Brielle and Jackson held court. You look exhausted, hermano, Mateo said, studying me over his Cuban coffee. I am tired, I admitted, then told him everything. By the time I finished, his expression had shifted from concern to controlled fury. If you're still watching, you have a good heart, the kind that understands betrayal by family cuts deepest. Please, take a moment to like this video. It costs nothing, but means everything to creators like us who pour our souls into these stories. Brielle wouldn't understand, but you do.
They're planning to put you in a home and sell your house? Mateo shook his head. Selena would be turning in her grave at Magnolia Cemetery. That's why I need your help. I want to sell the house. Fast, quiet, and for cash. Mateo leaned back, his business mind already working. South of Broad? That house is worth at least $2 million, maybe 2.3. But if you want speed and discretion, I'll take 1.8 million cash if someone can close in 10 days. His eyebrows shot up. You're leaving money on the table. I'm buying my freedom, Mateo. What's that worth? He smiled then, the shark-like grin that had made him millions. I have buyers from New York always looking for Charleston properties. Wall Street types who pay cash, no questions. Give me 48 hours. Back home, I began my performance. I started forgetting things, small stuff at first, where I'd put my reading glasses, carefully hidden in my pocket. Jackson's name once or twice, calling him Jackson instead. Brielle ate it up, each mistake confirming her narrative that I was declining. See? I heard her whisper to Jackson one evening. He's getting worse. The timing is perfect. Meanwhile, I was systematically organizing 40 years of documentation. Marriage certificate, mortgage papers, tax returns, everything that proved this was my house, my life, my decision. I opened a new account at a credit union in Mount Pleasant, slowly transferring funds from our joint accounts in small enough amounts that Brielle wouldn't notice. Loretta Henshaw from next door, a true Charleston grande dame, stopped by with her famous bourbon pecan pie one afternoon, while Brielle and Jackson were out. "Everett, is everything all right?" she asked, her keen eyes taking in the boxes I'd been discreetly packing in the carriage house. "I see Brielle and Jackson coming and going with shopping bags from King Street, but you seem different." I'd known Loretta for 25 years. She'd brought casseroles when Selena was dying, had celebrated with us when Brielle graduated from the College of Charleston the first time before dropping out of law school that I'd paid for. "Can you keep a secret, Loretta?" She nodded, and I told her my plans. Her expression went from shock to approval to something like pride. "Good for you, Everett. My children would never dare, but if they did—" She made a cutting motion across her throat. "You need any help?" "Actually, yes. When they leave for Napa, I'll need someone to witness some documents. Count on me and my son Quentin, you remember, the attorney downtown? He'll help too." Mateo called 2 days later. "I have your buyer. Manhattan hedge fund manager, wants a Charleston base for his family, loves South of Broad, doesn't care about inspections, $1,900,000, all cash, can close in 8 days. Done." "There's one condition," Mateo added. "He wants to move in the day after closing. His kids start at Porter Goud School soon." The day Brielle and Jackson would still be in Napa. Perfect. That evening, I cooked their favorite meal, she crab soup and beef Wellington for Jackson, despite the expense, and Brielle's complicated cauliflower steak that took 2 hours to prepare properly. They didn't notice my extra effort, too busy discussing their Napa plans. "Roland found this amazing spa. It's $1,000 for a day pass, but totally worth it." $1,000. More than my monthly heart medication costs that I'd been having to save money. "That sounds wonderful, sweetheart." I served them with hands that no longer shook. "You deserve to relax." Jackson actually looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time in months. "You're taking this really well, Everett." "Why wouldn't I?" I smiled. "Family should enjoy life. That's what Selena always said." At the mention of her mother's name, Brielle's face flickered with something. Guilt? But it passed quickly, replaced by her usual self-absorbed expression. "Still here? Your parents are probably watching somewhere, hoping you're not like Brielle. Honor them by sharing this story. One share could save an elderly parent from this fate. Don't be someone who scrolls past. Be someone who acts."
The morning of their departure arrived thick with humidity, typical Charleston August weather. I stood in the doorway, playing the part of the devoted father one last time as Jackson loaded their Louis Vuitton luggage into the Uber Black. "Now, Dad," Brielle said, adjusting her new Versace sunglasses, a pre-vacation gift to herself with my credit card, "we've left all the emergency numbers on the fridge. The neighbors know we're gone, so if you need anything, I'll be fine, sweetheart." I pulled her into a hug, memorizing the scent of her expensive perfume, the same Chanel No. 5 Selena used to wear only on anniversaries. "Have a wonderful time." She stiffened slightly in my embrace, then pulled away. "The cleaning lady comes Tuesday. Try not to make too much mess." The cleaning lady I paid for, who Brielle insisted we needed despite neither her nor Jackson working. Jackson shook my hand, his grip weak and dismissive. "Take care, Everett. Don't do anything crazy while we're gone." He laughed at his own joke. If only he knew. I watched the Uber disappear toward the airport, then immediately called Mateo. "They're gone. My buyer's ready. Can you meet at the attorney's office tomorrow morning? Quentin Henshaw is handling everything. Loretta's son." "I'll be there." The house felt different with them gone, lighter, like it could finally breathe again after years of suffocation. I walked through each room, remembering. The kitchen, where Selena taught Brielle to make biscuits from her great-grandmother's recipe before Brielle decided Southern cooking was too heavy. The parlor where we'd hosted Brielle's debutante party before she told her New York friends we were embarrassingly traditional. The master bedroom they'd claimed 3 years ago, relegating me to the small servants' quarters because Jackson needed space for his trading office, where he lost money day trading. Loretta came over that afternoon with Quentin, who'd driven from his Broad Street office. "Mr. Blackwood, Mother told me what's happening. This is completely legal, but I want to make sure you're protected. Have you thought about where you'll go?" "There's a senior community on Kiowa Island, Ocean Palms. Not a nursing home, actual luxury residences with ocean views. Buy-in is $700,000, then monthly fees I can easily afford with my pension and the remaining funds." "Ocean Palms," Quentin smiled. "Judge Harrison's widow lives there. Says it's like living at a permanent resort. Golf courses, beach club, yacht access, trips to Savannah and Asheville." Everything Magnolia Gardens Senior Facility wasn't. I'd done my research on the place Brielle had chosen. Understaffed, under investigation, with complaints dating back 6 years. The kind of place where people went to disappear. That evening, I began packing in earnest. Not everything. That would be too obvious when they returned, but the things that mattered. Selena's pearl necklace that Brielle had been eyeing, claiming she'd keep it safe. My father's Navy medals, my law school awards, the photo albums Brielle had called dusty relics. Into a storage unit they went, one I'd rented under Mateo's company name. The closing was scheduled for Thursday. By then, Brielle and Jackson would be wine tasting in St. Helena, spending money they thought they'd multiply by selling my prison. I found the folder Brielle had hidden in the master bedroom armoire. Dad's transition plan, written in her neat handwriting. Inside were the nursing home applications, already partially filled out. The power of attorney documents with yellow sticky notes marking where I should sign. Real estate listings from my house with her notes. List at 2.5, take 2.2, need funds by September. September. They'd given me 3 weeks of freedom before disposing of me. I photographed every page, then returned the folder exactly where I'd found it. Evidence, Quentin had said. Always keep evidence. That night, I sat in Selena's garden in the courtyard, surrounded by her beloved camellias and tea olives, the one thing I'd truly maintained these 5 years. The jasmine was blooming, its sweet scent filling the humid air. "I'm not abandoning our home, Lena," I whispered to the evening breeze off the harbor. "I'm saving myself. You always said I was too trusting, that people would take advantage. You were right, my darling." A text from Brielle lit up my phone. "Landed safely. Jackson's parents upgraded us to first class. Don't forget your medications." My medications. The ones I'd been rationing because they'd maxed out my credit cards. "Have fun, sweetheart. Give my regards to Roland and Meredith." She didn't respond. She never did unless she needed something. If your heart is breaking for Everett, you're not alone. But watching isn't enough. Evil thrives when good people do nothing. Hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. Be someone who stands against elder abuse. Selena's memory deserves that much, doesn't it?
Thursday morning arrived with perfect Charleston weather. Clear skies, a gentle breeze off the Atlantic, the kind of day that made tourists fall in love with the holy city. I dressed in my best seersucker suit, the one I'd worn to Selena's funeral, the one Brielle had said made me look distinguished when she needed me to co-sign her boutique loan 3 years ago. The boutique that closed within 4 months. Quentin met me at his law office on Broad Street, in a building that had witnessed Charleston history since 1798. The buyer was there, a soft-spoken man named Harrison Wells, whose eyes held understanding rather than judgment when Quentin explained my situation. "My grandfather went through something similar in Boston," Harrison said quietly. "I understand completely, Mr. Blackwood. We'll treasure your home." The signing was surreal. 34 years of memories reduced to signatures and initials. But with each page, I felt lighter. The wire transfer was completed immediately. $1,900,000 to Everett J. Blackwood, sole owner of the property as Selena's will had ensured. "When do you need me out?" I asked Harrison. Quentin explained the situation. "Take tomorrow to gather your belongings. We'll officially take possession Saturday morning. My family's staying at the Ocean House until then." Friday was a symphony of precise movements. The moving company Mateo recommended arrived at dawn, discreet and efficient. Only my bedroom furniture, clothes, and personal items. The rest would stay for Harrison's family or for Brielle and Jackson to deal with. Let them wonder why their furniture was now someone else's problem. Loretta watched from her piazza, occasionally coming out to tend her window boxes and give me encouraging nods. Her son Quentin had helped me file paperwork, preventing Brielle from accessing my medical records or financial accounts without my explicit consent. "It's called elder abuse prevention documentation," he'd explained. "Creates a legal trail showing you're competent and acting of your own free will." By evening, my new residence at Ocean Palms on Kiawah was arranged exactly how I wanted. The 2-bedroom villa overlooked the Atlantic, with dolphins visible from my screen porch. My neighbors, I discovered during my tour, included a retired federal judge, a former Citadel commandant, and a woman who'd been prima ballerina in New York. People with stories, with dignity, with respect for each other's autonomy. Saturday morning, I returned to the South of Broad House one last time. Harrison and his family were arriving at noon, but I had something to do first. I placed the letter on the kitchen counter, held down by Selena's favorite sweetgrass basket. the one thing I deliberately left behind. Brielle and Jackson. By the time you read this, the house has been sold to its new owners, the Wells family. They have children who will fill these rooms with laughter again, something that's been missing for too long. I overheard your plans for Magnolia Garden Senior Facility. I've seen the power of attorney documents. I know about your intentions to sell my home without my consent. Consider this my counteroffer. The proceeds from the sale have been distributed according to my wishes, not yours. Your belongings are in the carriage house. You have 48 hours to collect them before the Wells family disposes of them as they see fit. I am not too old to make my own decisions. I am not too feeble to recognize betrayal, and I am certainly not too weak to protect myself from those who would exploit my love and generosity. Do not attempt to contact me. Do not come to Ocean Palms. Security has your photos and strict instructions. I loved you, Brielle. I raised you alone after losing Selena, gave you everything. But somewhere along the way you forgot that respect isn't inherited, it's earned. And you, my dear, are morally bankrupt. Enjoy Napa. It's the last vacation you'll take at my expense. Everett J. Blackwood. Still competent, still capable, still in control. I placed my house key next to the letter and walked out, closing the door on 34 years of memories. The good ones I'd keep, the bad ones I'd forget. My phone buzzed. A text from Brielle. Having amazing time here. Jackson found this perfect investment opportunity here. Only needs $75K to get started. Can you wire funds? It's guaranteed returns. I deleted the message and blocked her number. Then Jackson's. Then I drove to Kiwa, where the afternoon social hour was about to begin, and my new life was waiting. If you feel that justice was served, remember, thousands of elderly parents face this betrayal daily. Share this story with everyone you know. Your parents, grandparents, they need to know they have options. Don't let Everett's courage be in vain. Subscribe now because someday you might need someone to stand up for you, too. While I was learning the names of my new neighbors at Ocean Palms Saturday evening oyster roast, Brielle and Jackson were sipping Cabernet at a Yountville restaurant. I knew this because Roland, Jackson's father, had somehow gotten my new number and was sending proud photos of their family paradise. I didn't block Roland, not yet. I wanted to know exactly when their world would crumble. Sunday passed peacefully. I joined a morning beach walk, had lunch with Admiral Morrison, retired, who'd lost his wife the same year I'd lost Selena. We understood each other without words. The way grief shaped you, hollowed you out, then somehow made you stronger if you survived it. My kids tried something similar, the Admiral confided over sweet tea and shrimp salad. Wanted to declare me incompetent after Margaret died. Said I was too depressed to manage finances. He chuckled darkly. Funny how my depression only affected the inheritance, not my ability to fund their lifestyles. Monday brought the first crack in paradise. Brielle tried calling from Napa. The resort's number showed on my phone, but I let it ring. She called 18 times in 2 hours. Then Jackson tried. Then a number I didn't recognize, probably Roland or Meredith. Finally, a text from Roland's phone. Everett, Brielle's very worried. She can't reach you. Please call back. Worried. Not about me, certainly. The house sale would process and public records by Tuesday. They'd find out soon enough. Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. California time, 9 a.m. Eastern. I was in Ocean Palms watercolor class, painting the marsh view, when my new phone, I'd switched numbers but kept the old phone to monitor their meltdown, exploded with notifications. Brielle had discovered the house sale. The texts came in a tsunami. Dad, what have you done? This isn't legal. You can't sell our house. Dad, please call me now. This is elder abuse. We're calling the police. Our house. The irony wasn't lost on me. Then the voicemails started. I saved every one. Quentin Henshaw had suggested keeping evidence of harassment. Brielle's first voicemail was shrill. "Dad, I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is clearly a sign of dementia. No rational person would sell their house like this. We're flying home immediately to fix this." Jackson's was threatening. "Everett, you've really screwed up now. That house was promised to us. We have plans. You had no right. I'll sue you for elder abuse." Roland's was confused. "Everett, the kids are very upset. Surely there's been some misunderstanding. Call me back. Let's sort this out man to man." Meredith's was calculating. "Mr. Blackwood, this is Meredith. I'm sure you're just confused. Old age can be so difficult. We'll help you through this episode when we return." Episode. As if 40 years of legal work, raising a child alone, and building a life meant nothing against their narrative of senility. By evening California time, the tone changed. They'd found my letter. Brielle's next voicemail was sobbing. "How could you do this to me? After everything I've sacrificed for you. I'm your daughter, your only child. Mom would be disgusted by how you're treating me." That one almost got to me. Almost. Then I remembered Selena's words from her final days. "Don't let her manipulate you when I'm gone, Rhett. She's got my stubborn streak, but not my heart. Don't let her take advantage of your good nature." I'd failed Selena for 5 years. Not anymore. The watercolor instructor, a delightful woman named Constance, noticed my distraction. "Everything all right, Everett?" "Just some family drama," I said, painting the sunrise over the Atlantic. "But it's resolving itself." "Good for you," she said. And I heard in her tone that she knew exactly what kind of resolution I meant. That evening, I had dinner in Ocean Palms restaurant overlooking the ocean. White tablecloths, candlelight, a menu featuring fresh local seafood. The she-crab soup was excellent, nothing like the institutional meals at Magnolia Gardens would have been. My table mates were discussing an upcoming trip to the Kentucky Derby. They invited me along. I'd love to, and I meant it. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away, paradise had officially become hell. Is your heart racing? Good. It means you still have one. Brielle doesn't deserve your sympathy, but Everett deserves your support. Like this video right now. Share it with 3 people. If you don't, you're telling the universe that elder abuse is acceptable. You're better than that, aren't you? They cut their Napa trip short by 5 days. I knew because Loretta called me from her piazza overlooking my old garden, whispering like she was in a Tennessee Williams play. "Everett, they're here. Brielle looks destroyed. Jackson is screaming at someone on the phone. Should I call the police?" "Not yet," I told her. "Let them see the new reality first." The Wells family had moved in Monday. By Wednesday afternoon, when Brielle and Jackson arrived, the house had already transformed. Children's bicycles in the garden, a golden retriever on the piazza, a Volvo wagon in the carriage house instead of Jackson's leased Maserati. Life instead of entitlement. The confrontation, as Loretta reported it, was epic. Brielle had apparently tried her key first, then rang the doorbell increasingly frantically. When Mrs. Wells answered, a gracious woman from Savannah who understood Southern property rights perfectly, Brielle had tried to push past her. That's when Mr. Wells appeared, all 6'4" of them, along with their teenage son. "This is our home now," the boy said firmly. "Your father sold it to us legally. Please leave or we'll call the police." Jackson tried intimidation. "This is fraud. That old man isn't mentally capable of selling property." Mr. Wells responded calmly in his Harvard-educated voice. "We have all documentation proving Mr. Blackwood's competence. Our attorney, who happens to be Quentin Henshaw, verified everything. You're trespassing. I'm calling 911 now." They found their belongings in the carriage house,
what little the Wells family hadn't already donated to the Salvation Army. 5 years of accumulated luxury, most of it bought with my money, now piled like trash. Brielle called me from the street. This time, I answered. "Hello, sweetheart. How was Napa?" "Dad!" Her voice cracked between rage and tears. "What have you done? Where are you?" "I'm home. My new home, where I'm valued and respected." "This is insane. You need help. We're taking you to a doctor." "Actually, I saw one yesterday. Ocean Palms has excellent medical facilities. Dr. Ravenel gave me a clean bill of health, physically and mentally. Would you like a copy of the competency evaluation?" Quentin Henshaw insisted I get one, dated and notarized. Silence. Then Jackson grabbed the phone. "You're going to pay for this, old man. We'll contest the sale. You were coerced." "By whom?" I asked calmly. "The security footage from the closing shows me arriving alone, signing willingly. Mateo Vega has been my colleague for 40 years, longer than you've been alive, Jackson. Every document is legal, every signature verified. But please, waste money you don't have on lawyers." "We're homeless because of you!" Brielle shrieked in the background. "No," I corrected. "You're homeless because you planned to make me homeless. You're jobless because you chose not to work. You're broke because you spent 5 years living off an old man you planned to discard. I simply accelerated your timeline." "Where's our furniture? Our clothes? My jewelry?" Brielle had taken the phone back. "The carriage house. Though the Wells family mentioned something about Goodwill coming tomorrow. Better hurry." I heard scuffling, cursing, then Brielle again. "Mom would hate you for this." The cruelest arrow in her quiver, but I was ready. "Your mother's last words to me were protect yourself from her if she becomes like my sister Ruth. Your Aunt Ruth, who bled your grandparents dry before abandoning them in a state facility in Colombia. Selena saw it in you then, Brielle, the entitlement, the greed. She made me promise not to let you do to me what Ruth did to them." Silence. I'd never told her that final conversation, the one that had haunted me as I watched Brielle transform from grieving daughter to calculating predator. "I don't believe you," she whispered. "Check the safety deposit box at Bank of America on Meeting Street, the one you've been trying to access. Selena's letter to you is there, along with her letter to me. She knew, Brielle. She knew what you might become, and she tried to warn us both." I hung up and turned off the phone. In the Ocean Palms community room, a jazz quartet from the Charleston Jazz Orchestra was setting up for the evening performance. I joined the gathering crowd, accepting a glass of bourbon from Judge Harrison's widow, Eleanor, who'd already heard my story through the senior center grapevine. "You did the right thing," she said firmly. "Family isn't about blood. It's about love and respect. They showed you neither." As the quartet played Summertime, I thought of Selena. She'd have loved this place, these people. She'd have been proud of me for finally standing up for myself. My old phone, tucked in a drawer, likely buzzed with rage and threats and manipulation. But I was listening to Gershwin now, swaying to the music with Eleanor and the Admiral and my new family. The one I chose, the one that chose me back. We're almost at the end, but don't you dare leave now. Everett's courage came from knowing people like you exist. People who understand that respect has no expiration date. Subscribe to this channel immediately. Share Everett's story with every parent and grandparent you know. If you don't, you're part of the problem. Be part of the solution instead. 3 months later, the Ocean Palms ballroom was decorated with camellias, Selena's favorites and Charleston's signature flower. I'd grown them myself in my assigned garden plot, nurturing them like I'd once nurtured Brielle before she forgot what love meant. Today was my 65th birthday, a milestone Brielle and Jackson had probably planned to celebrate by having me institutionalized. Instead, I was surrounded by friends who'd become family, people who saw my worth beyond my bank account. Admiral Morrison raised his bourbon. To Everett Blackwood, who proved it's never too late to choose yourself. The room erupted in warm applause. Constance had baked a Lady Baltimore cake, from scratch, 7 layers. Loretta Henshaw was there as a special guest, having become something of a legend for her surveillance skills. Even Mateo Vega had come, bringing his wife and the news I'd been waiting for. Brielle contested the sale, he said quietly, pulling me aside. The judge threw it out in 3 minutes. The competency evaluation, the documentation Quinton provided, your meticulous paper trail, it was bulletproof. But there's more. He handed me an envelope. Inside were photographs from a private investigator. Brielle was already married, has been for 15 years, lives in Atlanta when he's not mooching off you. His real wife filed for divorce after discovering his double life. Brielle might be facing charges for fraud, all those joint tax returns claiming married status. I stared at the photos. Jackson with another woman, 3 teenagers, a whole life Brielle either didn't know about or had ignored. She called me last week, begging for your contact information. Said she's living with a friend in North Charleston working at a Harris Teeter. Jackson disappeared the day after they got back from Napa. Good, I said, surprising myself with my lack of sympathy. Let her experience what she planned for me, abandonment by someone she trusted. The birthday party continued around us. Constance from watercolor class had painted me a portrait of the Ravenel Bridge at sunset. The beach walking group had pitched in for a new set of golf clubs for all the rounds ahead, their card read. Dr. Ravenel stopped by with my latest test results. Blood pressure's down, cholesterol improved, and that stress-related insomnia? Gone. Amazing what removing toxic people does for your health. That evening, as the party wound down, I found a voicemail on my new phone from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I listened. Mr. Blackwood, this is Meredith, Jackson's mother. Roland and I discovered some disturbing things about our son. We found out about his other family, his lies, his debts. We owe you an apology. We enabled him, just like you enabled Brielle. We're getting counseling now, trying to understand how we failed so badly as parents. I hope you found peace. I deleted it. Their enlightenment wasn't my concern. Later, in my villa, I opened Selena's journal, the one I'd hidden from Brielle years ago. Her entry from a month before she died. Everett will read this someday and know I tried. Brielle's becoming someone I don't recognize. The entitlement, the casual cruelty to her father when she thinks I'm not listening. I've left her the letter in the safety deposit box, hoping she'll change. But Rhett, my love, if she doesn't, if she becomes what I fear, promise me you'll save yourself. You deserve happiness, even if it means walking away from her, especially then. I closed the journal and looked out at the ocean where tomorrow's dolphin watching group would gather at dawn, where the Admiral and I would play chess afterwards, where Eleanor would share stories from her judge's chambers, where I'd built a life of dignity and choice. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Dad, it's Brielle. I know you won't respond, but I need you to know I found Mom's letter. I've been seeing a therapist. I understand now what I became, what I did. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. The daughter you deserved. The daughter Mom wanted me to be. Happy birthday. I love you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I did something that would have been impossible 3 months ago. I wished her well in my heart, then blocked the number. Some bridges once burned should stay ash. Some lessons once learned should stay permanent. And some old men once freed should stay free. Tomorrow, the Kentucky Derby trip with the club. Next month, a Mediterranean cruise from Charleston. Next year, who knows?
For the first time in 5 years, maybe longer, the future was mine to decide. Selena would be so proud, and that's all that mattered. That's all for this story. Now, you made it to the end because you have a heart that understands justice, dignity, and the courage it takes to reclaim your life. If Everett's story moved you, you have a moral obligation to share it. Someone's parent needs to see this. Someone's grandparent needs this strength. Subscribe now, hit the notification bell, and share this with at least 5 people. Be the reason someone finds the courage to choose themselves. Everett did it at 64. What's your excuse? Don't scroll to another video. Don't pretend this didn't touch your soul. Act now, because someday you'll need someone to stand up for you too. Make sure that world exists by creating it today.